Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the SAME Young Professionals webinar, Sustaining Space Industry Growth with an Effective Workforce Development Program. I'm so happy you guys could join us today, but before we get started, we have to do our housekeeping notes. Those who are connected with VPN, you might have some issues, so make sure you disconnect your VPN now. Audio through the broadcast is through your speakers. Make sure that you can hear us. You're unmuted. I know I historically do that. I have my speakers muted and I wonder what's going on. Use the chat feature to ask your questions or give some general feedback. Anything else you want to, any input, we will move those questions over to the Q&A, and you can go into the Q&A and you can vote for your favorite question. So make sure you go in and do that as well. Also, the handouts and the presentation itself will be available in the handout tab. So you can go ahead and go there and download that before the end of the webinar. We'll also have, I believe we'll have handouts available in a different way too. So if you are watching this and you don't get the handouts, make sure you reach out to any of the SAME Young Professionals COI members and we can get those handouts for you. Additionally, this presentation is being recorded. So if you're watching this recording, thanks for joining us a little bit late. We always appreciate you guys viewing our content. Before we get started, we have to do a poll. We want to know who's joining us today. Are you federal government? Are you any other government entity? What size business? Academic? Are you retired and just wanting to learn a little bit more? Please provide us those answers so that we can get an idea of who you are. So right now we've got quite a few small business, large business seems to be winning out. A couple of academic, government. So we've got a good mix of people, government, military, not government, civilian. So thank you, all of you guys, for joining us today. This is going to be a really engaging webinar. I know Miguel has some additional polls throughout, so make sure you guys pay attention and are ready for those. So it's been said that we've entered into a golden age of space innovation and advancement fueled by the commercial and private sector. This means new growth opportunities for professionals and firms to engage with and work in the space industry. Just recently, U.S. Space Force announced a bonus for the new Guardians who had a tech background. So how can you or your firm get prepared for these opportunities? Well, Miguel with Nova Space is here to discuss a solution and answer that question. Welcome, Miguel. Thank you for joining us. So you seem to be, thank you. You seem to be no stranger to experiencing new things, and you created the first group of Marine Corps Space Force. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, no, aerospace has been something that's been ingrained in me since I was, a child. And, having the opportunity to support the Marine Corps as a pilot on the helicopter side, and then, being sent to the Naval Postgraduate School to learn all things space, and, with a second degree in physics, moved on to support the Marine Corps. And myself and actually the CEO of Nova Space, who I met in graduate school, we were instrumental in starting what we have now are the first cadre of Marine Corps Space Forces for the Marine Corps. So, as you mentioned, the space industry is growing throughout the government and on the commercial side. So, given that career in the Marine Corps, upon retirement, I supported the Air Force back when they were in charge of space, with a few constellations, working as a contractor, and then moved on to be a business development professional for a small business. And here I am now, working for Nova Space, one of the content creators, and I'd love to talk to you guys about space professional development and how the industry is changing.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. And we look forward to it. I met Nova Space at a space conference, and I knew that you guys had to talk to SAME. So I'm glad we can make this work today. So go ahead and take it away. Thanks, Miguel.
Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and advance the slides. And there we go. Okay. So as mentioned, the space industry is rapidly growing. It used to be an environment where really the only players in town were NASA and the DoD. And so that really created an environment that was very stable, and there was a very stable pipeline of professionals that entered into the space industry and did some great work early on. However, with the explosion of the commercial side of the space industry, that growth is due to be a $1 trillion industry by 2040. And it's going to grow exponentially. And it's going to continue to grow. But technology alone is not enough to sustain the growth that we are due to see in the space industry. It's really the people. The people, it's what's going to sustain that growth. And it requires talented, skilled professionals that understand the vernacular and understand the space industry to really contribute to its future success. Now, the traditional pipeline for space professionals have been typically through the various university programs out there, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, even aerospace engineers. However, when they graduate college, you know, their level of space knowledge is really zero to none. They really, in school, they really focus on the discipline of engineering. And sure, they get some taste of the space industry if you're an aerospace engineer. But really, the way you learn space is on the go, on the job training or mentorships. That's the traditional model. That model is now outdated. We're in a competitive environment where various companies are vying for a scarce talent pool of people. So the logical step is really to bridge the gap between academia and the space industry with a sound workforce professional development program. So if you look at the job boards out there, and this is, I mean, as you can see there, NASA has some open positions, but really the bulk of it, it's commercial space. It's commercial space and the federal contractors that support NASA and the DoD. There are a lot of open positions, and there are some trends that I'll talk to you about here in a second. But the big takeaway is that it's not just a playground for engineers and scientists anymore. It's a true space ecosystem where you're going to require folks from all walks of life, a large, diverse set of people from various disciplines, not just engineers. Think psychologists, doctors, nurses, sociologists, civil engineers. If we start colonizing the moon, Mars, in the next couple decades, you're going to need the same services and types of people that we have here on Earth on other celestial bodies. Nothing is going to change. It's just the environment. And the environment is very unique and very tough. And it requires some skills and some training and some education that typically people don't get at the collegiate level. And I'm focusing a little on the engineering career path here because that's typically what works in the industry, but it could apply to anything. And the traditional model focused on, again, on the job training and mentorship. It takes a long time. So take a mechanical engineer or a software engineer. They don't know anything about the space industry when they get hired on by, let's say, SpaceX. And their method or the traditional method of learning the space is on the job training, and it's very stovepiped at first. You get hired and you're going to be stovepiped into a project, and your job is to learn. But many times you don't even know what questions to ask because you don't know what you don't know. Our philosophy is let's give that knowledge base up front. We're not going to give you 20 years of experience, but we can surely give you the knowledge base that's what we like to say 1 foot deep and 1 mile wide, that at least teaches you the foundations and the vernacular of the space industry so that now you can know what questions to ask of your managers and your senior engineers. Or if you're a senior engineer, you don't have to spend your valuable time teaching fundamentals because something similar to our program does exist and teaches the foundations up front. Some of the trends that I've seen over the past year and a half are that there are some concerns in the industry, both from entry-level employees all the way up to chief engineers. And really it centers around the fact that there are not enough people that understand space. And that problem is going to continue to grow. And what's going to end up happening is that companies will simply trade employees back and forth in the hopes that that employee stays with the company for a long time and they're able to support their mission. Now, on the entry level side, a lot of the feedback that we're getting back is that there is that lack of foundational space knowledge. There are great engineers out there, great scientists, and great people from all disciplines, but they simply don't understand the industry. There's no effective onboarding programs, and that all creates a communication barrier with their project team leads and their program managers. And, you know, this new generation of people, talented people coming out of universities and even high schools, there is a thirst for knowledge and they want that knowledge now. The traditional philosophy of, come under my wing and let me teach you the way, and it's going to take you 10 to 15 years to gain that level of knowledge that now you are considered an expert, it's outdated. Knowledge is readily available up front, and there's no reason that you can't have it. On the flip side, with projects and project managers and program managers, a lot of companies are having to hire project managers and program managers that have leadership experience managing projects, but they know little about the space industry. And the reason that they have to do that is because there is a lack of talent out there, talent that understands the space industry. So a lot of the trends that we're seeing with them is that, again, there's a minimal space industry knowledge. And now, if you can imagine a situation where your entry level employees don't have the knowledge base and there's a communication barrier, well, the communication barrier then gets worse with project managers and program managers that don't completely understand the industry, right? So it's not until you get to the point of being a chief engineer or a senior engineer that now you understand the big picture of what it takes to design, launch, and operate a spacecraft. And it's that knowledge and those trades-based decisions that are gained through experience traditionally that we at Novaspace want to provide an entire workforce up front. And some of the trends that we're seeing with senior engineers and chief engineers is that they're having to spend too much time out of their day to explain to entry-level employees or even project managers the fundamentals of the space industry. What are the differences between LEO, MEO, and GEO? What do those terms even mean? What are the radiation concerns of operating in space? What are the concerns to life support systems? All those things you traditionally pick up along the way, and there's a better way to do it. So the solution in our mind is a sound workforce development program, similar to what we saw in the cybersecurity world a few years ago, a few decades ago, when really cybersecurity was a vague term. It was sort of felt on, it kind of fell under information technology or software development. But now there's a very defined workforce development program for cybersecurity. There are defined credentials and certifications, and that's what we're trying to do with the space industry. We're creating a roadmap of courses for the industry that starts with our flagship course, which is the Space Professional course. And that course continues on as we develop new courses with more technical courses and ultimately culminating in what we call our Master Space Professional course. And what we are trying to do is not get rid of OJT and mentorship. You still need that in the industry. You still need to provide and transfer the expertise of the aging talent pool and transfer that to the younger generation. So what our program does, it augments traditional OJT and mentorship. And again, we're bridging the skills between academia and the industry. This is our flagship course, the Space Professional course, that does lead to a digital credential through Credly. We don't give you the credential. It's provided through a third party that is verifiable, resides with the person throughout their lifetime, and it's something that employers can look up and see, okay, this person has learned the following skills and they understand the space industry, essentially. They're likely going to be a good hire. And this is what they know. It's verifiable. Unlike, for personal example, in the Marine Corps, how many courses do you take in the service and they give you a certificate, and really to an employer that doesn't really mean much once you retire or separate from the military. A digital credential means something and it's verifiable. Going back to what we offer, our flagship course is essentially the Rosetta Stone of the space industry. It teaches you the fundamentals, about 1 foot deep and 1 mile wide, of all the topics and fundamentals of what it takes to design, launch, and operate various types of spacecraft. To include, with our short story interactions you see there, some upcoming topics and current topics such as on-orbit servicing, space tourism, mega constellations at LEO for communication purposes, sort of things that are up and coming in the space industry. And it's also bounded by our foundational courses within our course. What's different, though, is that our primary courses within our Space Professional course are interactive based. They're challenge-based interactions, not just PowerPoint slides. And I'll show you why that's important. These are the short courses that we offer for professionals that maybe do have experience in the industry and want to refine their skills in very specific areas. And these are some short courses that are the first of many that we will create here in the next couple of years. And again, they're all verifiable through credentials through Credly. Now, this is where NovaSpace is different, and this is where we want to see workforce development change, not just for the space industry, but really for all of the industry that's involved in training and education. What we are used to, specifically in the military, is boring PowerPoint presentations or boring video lectures or even live seminars where an instructor may come in for a couple of days and really teach to the PowerPoint slides. It's not enough time, right? And it's really a bad way, and you can go ahead and play the video, and it's really a bad way to teach highly complex technical material. As you can see in the sample video here, this is an example of something that is offered today and attempts to teach you orbital mechanics, a very complex subject, through PowerPoint. This is an e-learning solution. This is not how human beings learn. I might as well give you the book that this comes from, ask you to read the book, and then you leave it up to you, the student, to figure out what to do with this information. It's an ineffective way of presenting complex material in a virtual environment. There's no practical application to it. It's just information. It's content. What our program does, it not only provides you content, but it provides you the context behind the content by practicing and doing as you learn, and also allows you to practice some soft skills. And I'll show you here a demo in a second. Go ahead and stop the video. So now we're to our first poll question. And really what I'm trying to see here is, based on your experience, and we've all sat through these boring presentations where we're supposed to be learning something. And the question is, are we actually learning? And I'll give it a few more seconds. Okay. Let's go to the next poll. What about video lectures? I'll give that a few seconds as well.
So Miguel, it looked like majority ranked the ineffective was the PowerPoint. And it looks like most video lectures are effective in most of the audience's opinions.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective. And what I mean by video lectures are a SME, a subject matter expert, recording a video of themselves lecturing their audience on a specific subject. There is no practical application. It's just content. And that's what I mean by that. All right, let's go on to the next poll. Live seminars. So in this instance, let's say, we'll use a scenario of a orbital mechanics expert coming in and teaching you orbital mechanics for 2 days through PowerPoint and some practical applications.
So we've got mostly effective so far, a couple highly effective. I think it would take a lot more than a couple of days to teach me orbital mechanics, but you can try.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so what we've developed is software that is interactive based, that tailors itself to the individual student and is different from traditional methods in the sense that traditional methods have to teach to the average of the class, the average of the bell curve. We've developed software that tailors itself to the individual student, the specific skills that they know, the specific skills that they want to know, and immerse them in challenge-based interactions. So let's show you a demo of what we've done. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and present to you. I will go ahead and sign in. This is our learning management page. We'll give it a couple seconds for it to sign in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we've structured our first course, and it's the first of many. And again, it's based around these primary story modules that sort of tackle the big three of the space industry: remote sensing, communications, and a GPS augmentation interaction. So GPS, remote sensing, and communications. And again, we've also integrated these short stories that focus on space tourism, space hotels, optical deep space observatories, future subjects like that. And then we also have our foundational courses. And the reason I bring this up is because when you start an interaction, if the system recognizes that you are struggling with orbits or you are struggling with the design process, it will recommend that you go back to our foundational module, learn the content in the same challenge-based interactive delivery method, and come back to the primary story to complete the challenge and the interaction, showing competency and then showing that you're learning along the way and learning exactly what you need to know in order to accomplish a job within that interaction. And what's unique about our program is that it all starts with a learner constellation, and I'll show you what that is. Go ahead and switch screen. As mentioned, what we are doing is we want to tailor the course specific to the individual person. And what we are doing here is we are taking a skills assessment of where you are today and where you want to go. So in this instance here, I'm going to say that I am very much a novice in the space environment, EM theory, and payloads, for example. I'll go over to novice. And I'll just click on the rest of the questions here just to progress on with time. The next step is to tell the system what you want to really focus on. I want to be more of an expert in the space environment, EM theory, remote sensing, payload design, and satellite communications. The next step is to go ahead and set some priorities. So I want to focus on the space environment, remote sensing, and the payload design. And then you further prioritize. And when you click submit, it's going to give you a recommended roadmap for your learning. It's going to allow you to not waste time learning things that you really don't want to focus on right now, but gives you the ability to just jump right into the things that you're weak at, you want to be strong at, so that you can complete the program as fast as possible. Not to say that you can't take the other modules or that they're not available to you. They are. But again, it gives you that personalized program just for you, the individual. So let me jump into the actual interaction. So let's use a remote sensing story. And in this instance here, you are a project manager tasked with designing a remote sensing platform that measures moisture in soil samples to grow better soybeans. And again, our interactions are designed not just for engineers and scientists, it's for anyone that really wants to understand the industry and what it takes to really tackle these technical subjects. We designed it in a way that is digestible by both technical and non-technical disciplines. So in this instance, we're going to provide you some background and some user requirements and customer requirements so that when you design something, you design the actual satellite, that you're actually meeting a goal. You're actually meeting a user requirement. So when you get to the point of actually making decisions, you have the ability to then, for example, in this instance, start selecting the right sensor that's going to meet your customer's requirements. And as you do that, you have the ability to review the mission requirements that you've already received up to this point. You get to analyze them once again. And if you're someone that has some experience in this area, you're able to jump right into what you think is the correct sensor for this problem. Or you can read through each type of sensor and classification of sensor and learn its overview, its advantages, its disadvantages, and then get to the point where you are actually making decisions. You get to review the requirements. You get to go back and continue maybe selecting or learning about other sensors, or you can say, I'm going to select this sensor. Now, most programs, most PowerPoint slides, video lectures, whatever the case may be, when you select the wrong answer or you do something wrong, the system or the person simply says, you're wrong. And if it's a video lecture, you're not going to get any feedback. It's just a video lecture. Now, when you select the wrong answer, we're going to tell you why you are wrong, because every decision that you make should be a learning experience. We're going to tell you when you are correct and why you're correct. And then we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to allow you to practice your soft skills in a team setting. So in this scenario here, you are the team lead or the person running a meeting, and your job is to intervene when you hear or see something that just doesn't make sense or is inaccurate to the conversation. In this instance being, you've just selected a sensor, and now you need to evaluate if that is the correct decision. And you get to see the sensor references here. You get to read once again what the descriptions are for the sensors you selected. And as you click on each person, you read the statement and you decide, okay, well, that's a true statement. So I'm going to click on the next person here, and you see that you see some frowns, and you see that the expressions on people's faces are changing. Again, sort of mimicking real life, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, there's something wrong here. I need to intervene. You read the statement and you decide, okay, that is an inaccurate statement. I need to intervene and be a leader in this meeting. So you intervene, and it gives you that positive feedback. Now, our interactions continue on through selecting the right sensors, selecting the right subsystems that are involved in designing a spacecraft, all the way up to the point of selecting the right launch vehicle and even the right launch location and orbit, ensuring that you don't exceed your cost, schedule, or any other constraints that are set forth by the users or the customer base. And this continues on for all of our interactions and our foundational modules as well. And as mentioned, the interactions, as you continue on with the interactions, if they sense that you are not strong in orbits or you don't understand the electromagnetic spectrum, it will kick you back to that foundational module so that you can learn the material and come back to the interaction. And do I still have the slides? I'm not seeing them on my, oh, there they are. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide here, and let's have another poll. And I'd like to hear what you think about experiential virtual learning.
I think we might be missing that poll, unfortunately. If you guys want to put your answers in the chat, we can talk through that. Unless I missed that poll, I don't see it.
If you can create it really quickly, I can continue on.
We got a couple highly effective.
Okay.
I think I would also agree with that. I would.
Yeah,
effective.
because as human beings, obviously the gold standard is to sit through a seminar of a few weeks at a university, or maybe even a master's program or a master's certificate, in person, interacting with a professor or an expert that you're going to do interactive exercises with. That's really the gold standard. Or even better, if you're at a highly technical university and actually get to touch and feel and play with the hardware, it's the gold standard. But in an environment where we are now highly competitive, the industry is growing, it's cost prohibitive and really time prohibitive for an entire organization to send their entire workforce to a master's program, for example. And even for the individual. As an individual, let's say you're a software engineer or a civil engineer. You may not need a master's program to learn what you need to learn to support the space industry and do it successfully. A workforce development program may be just what you need. However, the most effective way of doing it and the most cost beneficial way of doing it is through interactive virtual learning. So, okay, so any luck with the poll, or should we just move on?
Let's go ahead and keep going.
Okay, how about the next one here?
I don't see that poll either. That's okay. We'll make the chat more interactive.
Okay. All right. So this goes in line with a little bit of what I was talking about. So when you look at professional development options, like I mentioned, the gold standard is a master's program, followed by maybe a video lecture or virtual video lectures with exercises, live seminars with exercises, slide deck or video lectures only, or our model of interactive challenge-based learning. And when you consider the timing and the cost of each type of option, what would you say is the most realistic for you as an individual today, considering cost, time, and effectiveness?
I think COVID has also changed the color of how we see this question now moving forward, as more companies are being more open to doing things remotely while it might not be the most effective way. So I think the focus is what is the most effective solution.
Exactly. So, for example, if you have two organizations that are building a satellite that is designed to refuel other satellites in geo, okay, and let's say you got three companies competing for that prize, for that, to get there first. If you have an entire workforce that is relying on the traditional model that NASA used decades ago, of you hire some entry level employees of all disciplines, and you rely on the job training, taking them under your wing, not having a standardized program of knowledge that you're giving to your entry level employees. And what I mean by that is, let's say you got 5 teams and each team is teaching something to their people, teaching 5 variations of the same topics. You're going to have non-standardized knowledge that's spread across the organization. It's going to create communication barriers. It's going to decrease productivity ultimately. Now, when you have a company that says, okay, you know what, I'm going to invest in my organization, in my people, and I'm not going to make them all 20-year systems engineers in astronautics, but I want them to have the same vernacular, and I want them to all have the same understanding of what we do as an organization. So you take those two examples, I will venture to say that the company that's going to be most productive, most profitable, and is going to get there faster is going to be the organization that invests in its people, teaches them the fundamentals, and doesn't rely on old, outdated models to train their people. And in a competitive environment, that's what we're seeing today. Gone are the days where the space industry is just NASA or just the big prime contractors that support NASA. We're seeing a lot of commercial entities that are taking talent away from NASA and government contractors, hiring them, paying them very well, and doing things faster and better. So as an industry, it's going to be better for us if we all have the same level of understanding, and utilizing a workforce development program is, in my opinion, the most cost-effective way, time-effective way of doing so. So let's go on to the next question. So just for your situational awareness, one of the great feedbacks that we receive from people are from even an aerospace engineer who took the course and said, I wish I would have had this years ago, because it would have given me the foundations that I needed to really support my team within the industry, because I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And now, when she took that course, she was able to really understand the big picture and really improve her communication skills and her level of interactions with her teams. Another aspect of what we've done is that we've been certified by the Space Foundation for education, and we're actually partnered with them to create courses as well. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and stop for some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Miguel. You guys go ahead and type in your questions either in the chat or in the actual Q&A. I do have a couple of questions for you. So earlier on, you mentioned that there is highlights and discussions around customer requirements for certain aspects of the training. And I was curious, is that commercial or federal, CONUS or OCONUS when you are regarding requirements?
Yeah, so we look at it from the standpoint of they're just requirements. Whatever the customer is, whether it be government or commercial, our focus is the entire space industry globally. So it's not solely focused on government systems.
That's great. And I know that specifically, I mean, with spaceport planning, a lot of the requirements are evolving and changing, and that's something that we always not necessarily are challenged to keep up with, but it is a challenge to keep up to date with a lot of the changes that are evolving, especially when you're in the middle of a project. Is that something you often see in your programs of having to continuously update it because of the changing requirements?
Yes, so that is one of the big reasons why we've developed our program the way we did. So we want to be that bridge again between academia and the industry because academia can't keep up with what's currently going on in the industry. It's going to take them, some time to develop new curriculums or update their curriculums and things like that. So what we want to do is we want to be that bridge. So let's say, for example, a year from now, less than a year from now, hopefully, SpaceX is successful with their Starship. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to update our propulsion and launch vehicle module because that's a game changer. I mean, when you're able to reduce the price per kilogram to $500 due to that technology, it's going to be a game changer for the industry. And we're going to go back to our SMEs and update our material. And that's what we want to do. We want to continuously update our material so it's relevant.
That's great. That's great. We have a question from Nick, and I apologize, Nick Lacour. Uh, he asked, "What currently is the leading demand in the space industry in your view?"
Wow. One of the biggest demands that we see are software engineers. So a software engineer, when they graduate, unless they took a class, they don't know anything about the space industry. And
Mm-hmm.
here's where it's relevant. So, for example, a spacecraft has very limited data storage, processing power. You're limited by how much power you have due to the fact that you're drawing power from the sun and you're using solar panels. So you're limited by a few things. So it's behoove of a software engineer to create code that is highly efficient. So the less code, the better to do X, Y, and Z. Having that understanding under your belt would increase your productivity because now you understand that specific aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that we're going to see in the future is, again, once SpaceX is successful and we're able to get to Mars and get to the moon efficiently, because that's the limiting factor right now. It's not so much a technology problem, it's so much a logistics problem, which, when you think about it, if it's now a business model or a logistics problem, business people, logisticians that understand the space industry will be crucial because, again, once we start colonizing other celestial bodies, civil engineers, we're going to have to build stuff somewhere else. So that's a different civil engineering problem than it is here terrestrially. So right now, yes, sure, the demand is software engineers or really any type of engineer, any type of person to work in the industry, project managers. But the demand is going to change drastically as the ecosystem expands to other disciplines.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Terry Reed asked, "Why would the model you are suggesting for the space industry not be a good model for a lot of industries?"
Oh, it absolutely is.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, more industries should be focusing on a model such as this. Yes.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that so we created this company with a gentleman named Chris Allen. He's our chief operating officer, and he brings decades of experience from the e-learning world. And him and his father created other companies and have developed content for other Fortune 500 companies. I mean, think healthcare, for example. Uh, lot of nurses, a lot of healthcare professionals get put through programs where they have to go sit at a hospital conference room for half a day to go learn some new technique. And it's really some person with great intentions, teaching this material through PowerPoint. And really,
Mhm.
when you look at the classroom, half the people are asleep or not paying attention. Or if
Yeah.
you're taking a PowerPoint presentation, you're just clicking through the slides to try to get through, get your certificate printed out, and show your boss that you've completed something.
Yeah.
It doesn't show that you've mastered any type of skill or you've gained competency or confidence in a specific topic. So yeah, it's absolutely applicable to other industries. And if interested, just give me a call or send me an email and we can talk about that.
Yeah. So, and I had one other question. It was specifically around, so like I mentioned before, this industry is there's a huge need. There's a lot more need of more professionals, more technical professionals, manufacturing, just any kind of anybody who has the ability to translate their skills and abilities. There is a need for them. Who are you seeing kind of working through these courses? Is it individual young professionals, or is it whole organizations that are trying to pivot themselves into this growing market?
Both. So
Okay.
on the individual side, aerospace engineers are taking it. We've had some software engineers take it. We've had military folks take it. So we've
Yeah.
had a few active duty folks take the course to help them on their military jobs as quote unquote space professionals, because for example, the school that the DoD uses, the demand for that school is so high that there aren't enough seats for people to go and take that course, an in-person course in Colorado Springs, which, by the way, our course is sort of line by line the same objectives and more because we focus also on the private industry. So that's on the individual side. On the organizational side, um, great example is a construction company. They purchased our course because they recognize that as a construction company, there is a future in constructing things either on orbit or on other celestial bodies, and they want to stay ahead of the game and make sure that they're competitive for a future economy.
Yeah.
Um, Another one is a propulsion company that makes thrusters, and their entire business development team, right? Not engineers, not technical people, salespeople, are taking this course because they need to understand the same language, the same vernacular that their customers understand, so that they become better salespeople and better business development people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And kind of along the lines of the vernacular, is there options to kind of get like a dictionary or click on items where it gives you that quick summary? Because personally, my firm does aviation, and when I say ground support equipment, they think luggage moving, not like the actual ground support
Right.
equipment for a propulsion system, or an engine stand. So is that something that is kind of highlighted as well? Because I know that's usually valuable if you're crossing over from one industry to another.
Yes. So what's valuable about our program is that once you purchase a course, as an individual, let's say, once you purchase the course, you have access to that specific course for life. It's yours. You're be able to receive all the updates, download any PDFs that support the material in the course, um, and yeah, it's there for you. What we want to do is we want to create a community for the space industry to continue the growth that we're going to see in the next couple decades.
And Nick had another question. He said, do you foresee some of these growing private sector space industry companies hiring all of their technical experts directly or subcontracting some of the more niche type work?
Both. I think there's benefits and to both. For example, if you're a company that really needs to hire uh, maybe software engineers just for a small portion of your project, it might make sense to subcontract that work out to somebody else. But for the most part, I think what we're seeing a lot of companies want to hire that in-house growth because you know, recruiting and retention are huge problems for organizations of all industries.
Mhm.
It takes a lot of money to retrain somebody or re-onboard somebody after losing them. Some say that it takes about 6 to 9 months of a person's salary to replace that person because you invest a lot of time and effort into that person once you hire them. And what we're seeing in the industry, especially with these really high speed organizations, is that, they're doing a lot of hiring. It's really exciting work. So they're attracting a lot of young talent, and they're even willing to take lower than average pay, but they get burnt out really quickly. They don't have an onboarding program. They may not have a workforce development program. There's communication barriers. So a lot of them are leaving and jumping over to other companies, trying to find the right fit. And that's what we're seeing across the board in all industries, is that gone of the days are where people stay with a company for 20 years because they feel some type of loyalty to that company. The script has changed. Organizations have to take care of their people and make them feel like they are part of the organization, part of the family. And that's how you really grow an organization in
Yeah.
today's environment.
Absolutely. And you said it earlier on, it's kind of, you're seeing a lot of the same people move from company to company to company. And it's even more prevalent among the commercial space sector, is what I've seen in my time in the aerospace industry. And to Nick's point, we would all love to hire in house and have them in house, but it's not going to happen unless they're out there. And so I'm seeing a lot of companies farm out that work because they're having a hard time getting them in house. So that just means that there's even more opportunity for companies to migrate into this industry from where they are.
Yeah. And ultimately, what does that do, right? Let's say, we see this with NASA and the federal government all the time. They have the same type of work, and every few years it has to be recompeted, and another company wins the award. And now, well, unless you hire the incumbents, but if you have a fresh new set of people, guess what? That's a whole group of people that now have to understand the organization that they're working for. And that's just not efficient, not in today's environment, and especially not in the space industry. You want to retain that talent that you fostered, so that you're more profitable at the end.
Yeah. Well, do we have any other questions? I know we're coming up close to time. We really appreciate you giving this presentation. I know Nova Space is a member firm. We are joint at the hip a little bit with SAME. So I'm really glad that we're working together on those things, and hope to see you guys at some of our future conferences. Speaking of future conferences, we've got JETC coming up in just a couple of weeks. We're really excited about having this in person. It's been so long since we've had JETC in person, so I hope you guys are all joining us for that. If not, you can definitely tag up with some of us afterwards to see what the hot topics came out. There's a lot of really great sessions. There's actually a couple of space sessions as well this year in Colorado, so we're looking forward to that. And we should have a couple of more young professional webinars coming up. As you guys know, all young professional webinars are recorded. They're available. All you got to do is just log into your SAME account, and you can find the link through the YP COI page. And if you have any issues, you can always reach out to any of us, and you can get to this recording and show your colleagues the easy way that they can efficiently and effectively learn about the space industry and help you and other professionals migrate into this great market that we're in. So, Miguel, do you have any final thoughts for us today?
No, thank you very much. We have that poll available now if we want to do that.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I want to pick a live seminar. I mean, that's been how I get it, but you can't deny the Nova Space model. It is pretty effective.
No, absolutely. So once again, the industry is going to grow, and we need people from all walks of life, all disciplines, all diverse backgrounds to contribute to that success, because it really is going to take a global effort to become an interplanetary species. And that's really what I want to see happen in the next few decades. So thank you. Reach out to me if you have any questions offline. Purchase our course. It's great. And I'm glad that we made a partnership with SAME, and we're going to continue working with you guys. And I'm happy that we're doing that. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Everybody have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you at JETC.